Welcome to Men, Sex, and Tantra.
Discover what your parents, porn, and religion never taught you about being a man and having extraordinary sex. Get ready to have your mind blown and your world rocked. Oh, hey, it's Tanya here. And I promised that I would talk to you about sexual chemistry. So let me run down sexual chemistry for you. People talk about that spark. Oh, you meet somebody and it's the spark. And we think when we talk about sexual chemistry that it is a visual thing, right? But that's not true, because sexual chemistry can happen between people who don't even find each other attractive. What is this sexual chemistry thing? So there's visual attraction, right? Which we get. You look at somebody and their geometry's right. You like their hair color, you like their butt or their boobs or their lips or something about them. You're into short women, tall women, whatever it is. So there's visual compatibility, which is pretty self-explanatory. And by the way, women are very visual as well. We should stop saying men are visual like women aren't. Women have the same cues they're looking for. There's geometrical cues about attractiveness and fertility, and women are into them as well. We are just as visual as you guys are. Maybe the issue is we don't solely rely on visual attraction to be interested in somebody. And there's plenty of men who don't do that either, who actually like to be attracted by different things. But nevertheless, we're all biologically designed to see fertility, attractiveness cues in the geometrical appearance of others. Okay, so we know that there's that. But here's the thing that we don't really get told about, one, that and sexual chemistry. So let's first get back to the visual. Do you know that you can actually be visually attracted? You can actually train your brain to narrow your field of visual attraction. So we were all out in tribes right now, just wandering around with a bunch of different people out in the world, like our little sect, right? And we didn't have the internet, so we couldn't go shopping for other looks. You, as men, have a wide range of attraction. You're being trained by porn and social media to narrow that attraction in this day and age. You might have been attracted to a shorter, heavier woman with blonde hair, or a woman over here, somebody just totally out of anybody you would be attracted to right now, or a thin, tall woman. You would find attractiveness with the selection you had available. So if there were 200 people in your tribe, you would find yourself attracted to more than you do today. If your porn and social media, you're attracted and drawn to a certain look, and then you tie that into arousal and ejaculation, you train your brain to only be attracted to this certain look. Everything we do is programming. We're programming our brains all the time. So if you believe you have only one look that you're interested in, you've probably trained your brain to be that. And then, of course, the more you train it, the more you don't want anything else. And then the more you only look at one thing, the more you train it. That's how that goes. So chances are you have a wider range of physical attraction than you would ever conceive of. And you're doing yourself a disservice by tagging into the same look over. How do you get over that? We'll start looking and being attracted to a lot of different varieties of women and different things. Great. You're going to do yourself a great service when you go out into the world and date if you're single, because guess what? You're not going to be so dissatisfied. You have a wider range of pool of women to check out and be enjoyment of and love. So for those men who are like, I just love women, the way women look, awesome. That is amazing. If you're narrow focused, you're constantly dissatisfied, stop doing what you're doing to create that dissatisfaction. So now let's get into something that isn't our eyes. It's actually chemicals that we don't actually smell. I mean, they don't have an actual tangible smell, but they are pheromones chemicals go into your nose that cause attraction. Pheromones. Okay. This happens, you can smell somebody. Like I said, not like distinctly smell. You can also smell people, right? Yeah. But these particular ones don't have an odor to them, but they do go into straight in, through your nose and into your brain and create chemistry, create a chemical soup when it happens. Women are a little bit more in touch with that than most men are. Though I do know men that can smell that a woman's ovulating. I do know men who are so tuned into their nose and the olfactory system that they can definitely pick out women who are attracted to them or not attracted to them, like hundreds of feet away. Pretty crazy, pretty interesting and cool. Women are definitely inspired by that chemistry because pheromones are created for biology, for procreation. And what they mean is sexual compatibility to make amazing, or chemistry to make amazing babies. Typically, people who are highly chemically attracted to each other have opposite immunities. They have things so that when they have babies, the babies are more robust. They have different components. Their immunity is much better. I'd like to see a study done on fertility and pheromones, that if somebody was together and they felt like they were best friends, but they didn't really have any passion or zip or zing or run each other down the hallway, that their fertility might be less. Okay, so pheromones, this is sexual chemistry. It has to do with this olfactory system, with the chemistry that's let off the body, our skin, underarms, our crotch, all of this, but not with not the actual odor. It's always there. It doesn't go away. So if you've had chemistry, I'm quoting, chemistry with somebody and then you didn't anymore, that's not what I'm talking about. That could be visual, emotional, all sorts of things. This chemistry, you could totally hate the person as a woman and want to have sex with them and have their babies. You could be totally visually unattracted to them and still think they were the hottest thing on the planet. These pheromones are on a continuum. There are tribe mates, people that we're neutral about how they smell. And then there's the top of the chain, which is like you see the person from across the room. Like I said, you could hate their guts, be visually unattracted to them, but have to have sex with them now. And the hottest sex you've ever had. Typically women easily orgasm, more easily orgasm and more aroused by men they have that high pheromone level with than anybody else. Now, we confuse this with a lot of things. Women confuse this with being with their soulmate. This does not mean you're going to have great relationship compatibility or even sexual compatibility. What it means is you'll have freaking amazing hot chemistry, which will blow all your critical thinking and literally just leave you in a chemical soup. So women make a lot of, and I'm saying women here because men, even though they're aware of it, they have a wider range. So it's not as intense for most men as it is for women, because it's mostly a cue for women to know who they want to pick as their baby daddies, who they want to have babies with. Women will confuse this with love, with their soulmate, with all sorts of things, and will pick poor matches based on the higher the chemistry is, the less a woman and men are in their logical brain. And maybe you've had that experience with some woman that's just like, she's so bad for you, but it's like the second y'all see each other, you're ripping each other's clothes off. It's mutual. Sexual chemistry isn't a one-way street. It's a mutual thing. So if you just want to rip her clothes off and she's always been like, about you that way, then that's not chemistry. That's probably some visual or other thing going on. But for women, that if we didn't teach, and we don't, if we taught this, there'd be less people having reckless, what I call reckless relationships, where the bad boy symptom thing and that's part of this too, right? So pheromones, sexual chemistry is something that is genetically in you. It doesn't change, go away when you don't like the person anymore, or if your visual attraction changes, it's still there and it's potent. On the higher on the continuum it is, or the higher it is, the more opposite your immune systems are, the higher that chemistry is. So let's say you're dating and you get together with a woman and you have good sex, maybe even it's great sex, but you don't have that spark, you don't have that passion that maybe you had with somebody else. And you're thinking, they're more like your best friend. And how they smell is okay. You're not like turned off by it, but you're not like, oh my God, by it. That's somebody who's more like your family or your tribe mate. So when people call me up and say, we need help with our sex life, oh my gosh, I just love him so much, he's my best friend. I'm like, whoop, there's probably no or not a lot of sexual chemistry. They might have sexual compatibility. They might have intimacy. They might have visual appeal. They could be emotionally connected, all sorts of stuff, but not have that, I want to run you down the hallway and have sex with you every second of the day feeling. Now, that doesn't mean they're doomed. That just means that they shouldn't be putting that passion as the top marker for satisfaction. If a woman's ever had that experience, she's kind of looking for that again, she'll be dissatisfied, even if you're a better choice for a relationship because you're a better human, you're not abusive, you're kind, you're all these things, she'll be missing that thing, that intangibility, until she understands what that is. You may be the same way. Like I said, you may have had that lover that you just cannot get out of your mind. And even, that even if she gained 100 pounds, you wouldn't care. Like all you want to do is be with her because of, you want your barrier, unshowered. So that's the thing. Because the pheromone is created by bacteria that's meeting the skin and everything else, you just are crazy about the way they smell, not their perfume, not their soap, not whatever. It's their smell makes you crazy. You would just grab the pillow and hang on to it because they spent the night there. Yeah, 100%. That's when you know, especially the chemistry is high, very high. The less they shower, the more you like it. That's an indication right there. If somebody's always telling you to go shower, they're probably not into your smell that much, into that. So the pheromones probably aren't as high. Okay, so on the continuum from neutral to actually people who you smell and you can't stand the way they smell, definitely never get into a relationship with somebody like that that's sexual. Just don't do it. I don't even think you should have roommates like that because you're going to fight a lot. If you don't like the way somebody smells, like it just turns you off, better not to even be involved with them. You're always going to be argumentative and have problems. And then all the way up until you're crazy about it, right? Like you're stealing their t-shirts and stuff like that. So what does this all mean? Well, that sexual compatibility, that sexual chemistry is something that you can, from across the room almost. And I haven't actually looked at the research of how far away that you can actually tell, but it's, it's a good distance, at least maybe 50 feet or something, or maybe more. And if it's there, once again, it's potent, it's strong, it's crazy town, makes you crazy, but it doesn't mean you should be in a relationship with that person. If you don't like them, don't be in a relationship. There's somewhere in between that's perfectly fine too. If we taught everybody this, and people understood what sexual chemistry actually means, then we could go, oh, I am crazy about this person, like instantaneously crazy. I've never this is, love at first sight. It's probably more like love at first smell, right? I'm crazy about this person, like to a point I've never felt this way in my life. You know that you're under the influence, under the influence of pheromones. And what you need to do then is be able to sit back when you're not with them or smelling their t-shirt or something you've taken from their bed sheets or whatever. It's important then to evaluate other things about them. Do you like them? Are they a good match? You need to bring your logical brain back into the equation, because if you don't, and you're going solely on that, your relationship could be a disaster, but you won't give it up because you'll think this is the one, this is the one, this is the one, based on pheromones. Guess what else happens? Breakups. When you try to break up with somebody that you have that sexual chemistry, that intense sexual chemistry with, you have to get rid of everything that was theirs in your house. You've got to literally deodorize every piece of fabric, all the furniture, the rooms. Don't keep articles of theirs at all. And in fact, for some people that have super high, like at the highest levels, they need to leave the house. They literally need to leave the house. They can't get over the relationship until they've gotten rid of everything that could ever possibly carry a pheromone from the other person. Because you won't. It will keep triggering that response of desperate desire. Desperate desire will continue to be triggered. You have to jettison it all, burn it all, move, whatever you need to do. That's true. So that's another reason that people say there's some people they just can't get over. That's because of that. Either they're unconsciously being re-triggered by something in the environment, or they just keep remembering that intensity and they don't see it or feel it in anybody else. All right. Sexual chemistry and pheromones. Here's something else. The birth control pill, with the advent of the birth control pill, we have destroyed our ability to handle that sexual chemistry in certain ways. What do I mean by that? The birth control pill mimics being pregnant. The only time our sexual compatibility, our pheromones change what they like or change the response is pregnancy. During pregnancy, most women are more attracted to people that smell like their tribe mates and not their sex partners. So whereas your woman could be like totally enthralled by how you smelled, and then she gets pregnant, she's like, oh, go away from me, take a shower, get away, I can't stand your breath, whatever. That's because at that time, her body wants to be in the quote unquote safety of her tribe, her brother, her family, things like that. It'll come back again after her pregnancy is over, everything will be fine. But this might have an impact on your sex life when she's pregnant. Conversely, if you guys don't really have smoking hot sex all the time and she gets pregnant and she's running you down the hallways, two things. One, the pheromone that has changed, her sense of what she wants has changed. And of course, blood flow to the genitals helps arousal. But a lot of the time it's because of that. Now you were her tribe mate, but now you smell opposite to her and she's attracted to that. Interesting. So you'll know about that because when she's not pregnant anymore, it'll go back to not being as interested. I mean, after the first 6 months of having a baby anyway. So there's some things to contemplate. What has that got to do with the pill since I brought it up? I remember telling a men's group that when you're dating somebody and they're on the pill, don't marry that person or start living with that person until they've spent some time off the pill. Use condoms, use another birth control method, but because things are going to change. And they looked at me like I was crazy. By the way, divorce lawyer, family attorneys call the birth control pill the divorce pill. So that should give you an idea of something there. So when a woman is on birth control pill, it changes her pheromone attractions because she's pregnant. So she's not looking for a mate. So she's not attracted to the person she was attracted to when she wasn't on the pill. Guys just are looking at me like I'm insane. Like, how could that be? So then a few months later, one of the guys calls me up and he goes, oh my gosh, Tanya, you know, the whole pheromone thing? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I met this woman and we were long distance. And he goes, and it was freaking the hottest, amazing sex ever. She thought so. I thought so. Crazy town, couldn't keep each other, hands off each other. Amazing, amazing. And I thought, yeah, okay, we have great sexual compatibility or chemistry. We have great sexual chemistry. This is amazing. And he goes, we were using condoms because we were not, we'd only have weekends here and there together. But then she wanted to move in with me. And she said she was going to get on the birth control pill because we were going to have sex more often because we just can't, like, we're like rabbits, he said. And so she didn't want to get pregnant. So she was like, yeah, I'm going to get on the pill. And I told her, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. It could change everything. But she was too scared about getting pregnant. So she started the pill before they even moved in. And he went down there to visit. And she'd been on the pill for about a month and a half, 6 weeks. And they were just looking at each other like, they argued. They didn't seem to be that interested in sex. She was like, I don't know what's wrong, but something's weird. So they put off like moving in together because she was supposed to move in the next, like month after that. And he begged her to get on the phone with me because he thought, oh my gosh, it's the pill. So I got on the phone with her and I explained this whole thing to her. And she goes, oh yeah. She goes, well, that makes sense. So then they talked about it. She got off the pill. Things went back to normal. Everything was awesome. But inevitably, she was too scared to get pregnant. So she decided she'd take the pill anyway. They moved in together against my judgment and they broke up about 2 months later. Okay. Now, that's an extreme case, but there is an impact. And if you are the further or the more compatible you are in sexual chemistry wise, the bigger impact the pill and pregnancy has. If you're down more around the friend family zone, it doesn't have as big of an impact, right? But it still has an impact. So, and that's the pill, that's any hormone. It's any hormone, whether that's a patch or an IUD with hormone on it. Anything that's hormonal can create a change with that. Menopause was something that, I wondered about because menopause changes your chemistry and obviously your hormone levels have changed to go into menopause. And I found personally that didn't change anything for me. That didn't change anything. But what did change something for me with my highest level sexual chemistry person was when they actually started doing drugs, smoking a lot and drinking a lot. As soon as they started smoking a lot of pot and doing some other drugs, that changed their chemistry enough that I was like, yeah, I was a little put off. I thought that is really weird because no matter how crappy they were to me, I was like, yeah, I could see them across the room and I want to have sex with them. But as soon as the amount of pot, other drugs, alcohol, then all of a sudden, yeah, that changed. So there's not a study done on that, but it would be interesting for a study both on fertility and for that to be done. So those are the things that I can tell you about sexual chemistry. Sexual chemistry is not the only reason to have a relationship, because you can have great sexual chemistry, great sex, but be sexually incompatible and be horrible in a relationship together. So what does that mean? I'm going to talk about sexual compatibility in the next episode. So please send me your questions about sexual chemistry, remembering that it's different from visual, physical, geometry, chemistry, right? Because there's even a sound thing. Like there are certain sounds, certain voices that actually arouse you more than others. I personally can't date a man who I don't like how his voice sounds. Maybe because I'm autistic, I don't know. But I do know that is definitely a thing as well. But the most powerful of all of these, even above visual attraction, is pheromones, sexual chemistry, the most powerful, potent drug that there is probably for all of mankind. And like I said, as a man, you might be like, yeah, I don't really know that I relate to this. Maybe you haven't found your opposite match on the high intensity scale there. Once again, men are less cued into that, have a wider range of compatibility with women because men were created to go out and, procreate with a lot of different women. That's not your biggest cue. For women, it's one of their biggest compatibility cues is that sexual chemistry, that pheromones, because of the whole baby making, procreation. Even women who didn't want to have children are still respond to that. So it's not in our conscious minds at all. Hopefully that's enlightening. Maybe it explains some things about relationships you've been in as well. Would love to know that. Once again, feel free to email me, ask me questions, give me some topics that you're interested in. I went off a little bit on, we were doing guests and then we said what women. We're doing a little bit of just me here for a while I dive into some of these topics. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, which would mean you have a topic that you want to talk about and get coaching on, or you'd like to just be a guest because you have awesome things to say about men, sex, and Tantra, then please email me as well. Put possible guest in the subject line. If you're emailing me with questions, just write question for your show, and I will be sure to jump on all these. Thanks so much, and sexual compatibility coming up next.